Good evening, my friends. How are you doing? How did you like my rear derailleur servicing? I see that you are working more on your bikes. That's cool. I'm just now overhauling the free hub from Diori wheels, so you're gonna see that, I think, tomorrow. Tonight I've got top 5 hardtails for just about $1,000 for you. I'm gonna show you from the least valuable in terms of dollar per what you get up to the best one by far. But it's not like I wouldn't buy this one. This is the Trek Excalibur 7. That's number 1 or number 5, we could say. If you have a Trek dealer just around and it's easy for you to go and check out the bike and ride it, and maybe you get some deal for this bike, why don't you buy it? And here is some reasons why I would and why I wouldn't buy this bike. First off, this bike looks very good. This is a pretty looking hardtail. Hardtail meaning we've got full front suspension here and no suspension on the tail, so it's a hardtail. Good looking, nice geometry. Almost everyone should feel at home with this geometry. It's not very racy. It's a sportive hardtail, so you can do some races. You can do some marathons on it. It's definitely some beginner's bike, just for somebody who has more than $500. I showed you why I wouldn't buy this bike. And one more thing, the frame here looks good. Trek has done some work on it. We've got tapered head tube. We've got some nice hydroforming right here, forming of these tubes. We've got the boost standard at the rear, so we've got a stiff rear end and stiff front end. We've got some internal cable routing, some external. So the frame is good. Why I wouldn't buy this bike? It's because of the lowest components. These are not made for a proper mountain biking, not for racing. You can race on this bike. I would easily be racing XC on Acera, but you've got Acera 2x9 drivetrain. Very good for beginners, very good for, I would say, even quite advanced amateur riding, and that's it. But you're gonna get better deals on other bikes. The biggest disadvantage is that it's got RockShox 30 silver coil spring. There is no air inside. That means it will be difficult to adjust to different riders with different weights and different riding style. And it doesn't have the remote lockout. It does have the turnkey hydraulic lockout, which means you've got some small lever here on the fork. You can lock it during the ride, or maybe on the left side even. But you don't have the remote on your handlebars, so it's not for racing. But the bike is okay. It will work. It looks pretty, in my opinion, and it will cost you just over $1,000. Number 2, it's quite similar situation with better components. We've got a Scott, so also very. Ooh, why does it look like that? Well-known brand. Looks like Nino Schurter's bike, right? So cool frame. We have the tapered head tube. You can see now what tapered means. You see, the lower bearing here is larger. The upper bearing here is smaller. That's for the stiffness. This one has got the remote lockout. As you can see here, you can lock the fork during the ride. And guys, do not be afraid of SR Santur forks. They make great forks. The problem is most of the super budget bikes come with Santur forks, those cheapest ones, and people say the Santur is not that good. This one is not also great because this is the XCR coil spring once again, so it's got same disadvantage as the Excalibur from Trek. And even though it's got the tapered head tube HT, that's the head tube, it has 118 steerer. So it looks like it doesn't have tapered steer inside here. It's just 118-inch steer with some adapter inside. So it's more for the upgrade but the fork itself won't be taking advantage of the tapering at the front. But as for the drivetrain, we've got a great drive. You can race, you can do proper races on this one. This is Diori. I've been racing Diori a lot this year. It's been great. I highly recommend this drivetrain. This is 2x10. You never run out of the gears. It's great. And the rear derailleur has the clutch, so the chain will be more stable. I've been loving this one. This is something I can recommend. This bike will be, I think it will be a little bit more expensive than the Trek, but it's worth the extra money for sure. So I would say Scott, for sure. Scott gives you more value for this for the money. It's got better drivetrain. It's also got the tapered head tube, and it's got also coil spring at the fork. But this one comes with the remote lockout. So it's closer to the racing setup. The third one is Grand Canyon, and that's an interesting one because when people see Canyons, they say, "Wow, man, they give you so much for the money," and that's true. You've got the XT rear derailleur here. You see XT rear derailleur. I think it will be maybe a little bit more pricey than the Trek and Scott, but the frame is not as advanced. We do not have the tapered steerer here, not steerer but the head tube, so the steerer as well of the fork. This frame is super easy frame. I'm 100% sure that they've designed this bike with this frame in order to be as budget as possible with better components than the competitors. So frame, in my opinion, won't be as good, but the components are much better. And the fork here we've got, that's the RockShox Recon RL. I've been testing this one. That's the air suspension, much better than those on Scott and Trek. That's something I would highly recommend having. But as I'm saying, you guys, if you like Trek, if you like the way it looks like, the frame will be, in my opinion, it will be better than the Grand Canyon, and Scott will have better frame than the Grand Canyon. Grand Canyon from Canyon will have much better components for just a little bit more money. The weight, that's interesting. Size medium, that's 13.3 kilograms for the Canyon. For Scott, they give us all the weights here, We've got 13.3 for the Scott. So even though they have lower components, coil spring, it's same weight. So you can imagine that the frame will be lighter than the one on the Grand Canyon. And the Trek Excalibur, they also give us the weight here, and it's almost 14. So it's much heavier than Scott and Grand Canyon. But wait for these two. I'm not sure, guys, you can buy this one in the US. This is the Boardman, that's the German brand. This is alloy frame, looking great. A lot of work to do in order to smoothen these welds here. This is more trail geometry bike. But if you look at the components, we've got 1x11 drivetrain, we've got some Shimano SLX components, we've got RockShox Reba RL, guys, RockShox Reba, proper mountain bike cross-country trail riding stuff with 120 millimeters of travel. So it's more specified for trail riding, but you can do XC on this bike 100%. Very interesting bike. It's also dropper post ready, and I think this is the only one from these, because I haven't seen any dropper post mounts or routing for this one. I cannot see it here, but they say dropper post ready, so it's dropper post ready. SLX with FSA, Gamma Pro, 1x11 drivetrain, Shimano Diori brakes. It's just looking cool. And then look at the weight. It's gonna be 12.9. We don't know for which frame size. Probably medium. I hope it's not small, but it's 400 grams lighter than the Canyon, and the price will be very similar. That's 1,000 pounds, guys. It's about 1,270 US dollars. Very interesting bikes. So, guys in Germany, viele Grüße. You can buy this one. That's something I'd recommend. Just looking at it, not riding, not testing. This is just a recommendation out of what we can see on the specs. And also this is tubeless ready setup. Tubeless ready rims, tubeless ready tires. And now the last one. And guys, this is not because Merida is one of my partners. This is just because this bike is by far the best hardtail in 2018 and 2019 in the world. I know Merida don't operate in US. I don't know why. I'm gonna link some store which probably ships to US. What I can tell you about this bike. First off, it's gonna cost 1,000 British pounds, which is also same price, $1,270 about. It's gonna have 1x11 drivetrain. It's gonna have very good Money-to-Mark fork with the remote lockout, but the frame, guys, they have nailed the frame. It is light, it is stiff. Of course, it's tapered. It's got very nicely done ports for if you want to have front derailleur. There you go. You can use it for that. And the weight, Merida gave us real weight. That's 12 kilograms. That will be way over 1 kilogram lighter than the Canyon. That's a huge difference. I did ride this bike. A little bit different specs this year. If you can get the Big 9 Limited 2018 even on Money-to-Mark or without the remote lockout and 2x10 Diori drivetrain, that's the one I've been riding. So you probably know my green Froggy, right? That's the bike, that's the frame. Very good frame, lovely looking, lots of shaping, of course boost, tapering, light, 12 kilograms, guys, for just over $1,000, 29er. Very good bikes, very good bike. So this is what I recommend to you tonight. And next I'm gonna do the freehub servicing. After that we're gonna talk about $1,000 road bikes, and then we'll see what comes up next. Best regards from Poland, guys, from Danny. See ya.